Yeah, it's Chinese New Year, guys. If you're looking for reason to have some good lunch, there it is, 726. Mrs. Maria Gutierrez of the Board of Education. I think we're getting the chair, Mark Mendiola, but ladies first, you know. Mrs. G, good morning.
Good morning, half a day.
So glad to have you on. Before the chair comes on, let's go ahead and can we just get an update? Because the last time we had you on, you were a little upset about the facilities maintenance, and we're talking about the canopies and getting the covers for all the different walkways. Remember, you'd come on and you're kind of upset. This is like last year. Do you have an update on all that stuff?
Yes, it's much better now. Of course, we still have like the manpower, and but the facility and maintenance are really doing everything they could, and also our employees at the Department of Education, regardless of what position they're holding, they go in and help change light bulbs, doorknobs. So everybody's doing their best. I ask the community to just be patient with us, because we're doing everything. And as you know me, I don't, once I say I push forward of what I wanted to complete it, it will. But I just want to thank, the Department of Education employees. They're doing their best. But first, can I just say, Sabrina, my condolences. Please, my prayers are with you and your family. But I see my colleague is there, my boss.
Not you. Boss. Hey, good morning.
Yeah, the big boss is here. Everybody, look official. The chairman of the board of education.
All rise for the chairman.
No.
Hey, any chairman that can wear a really good hoodie is okay in my book, man.
You're so hood.
That's quality leadership right there, man. What's up, Mark?
Mark, did you kind of want to follow up on what Mrs. G said? Because I know last time we had her on, she was upset about the facilities, but then from what she said and what John has also talked about, is what we're good on that now, or what?
Come again? Sorry.
Facilities maintenance, canopies, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, so of course, it comes down really to resources. Am I good?
You're good. Yeah, you're on.
So when it comes down to resources, with the federal government, the reprieve you got from the funding, we're able to back in some CIP money. And it basically, Chris and Bree, what it has done is it's taken away some pressure on the local appropriation side. And it gives us an opportunity to I tell people like this, it's kind of like give us an opportunity to press a reset button so that we can kind of start fixing our restroom facilities and our canopies, a lot of things that were, it's called deferred maintenance costs. And so we're able to get these things fixed. And let me reassure you that my colleagues and I, and Ms. G being the chair of facilities, health and safety schools, when we hear it from our community, hear from our folks, of course, it's like, a good majority of our budget is tied into personnel costs. And, when all is said and done, it's really interesting if people don't really understand the budgeting process for DOE. It's kind of, I don't want to say a shell game, but it's kind of like a lot of gamesmanship when it comes down to it, So like Ms. G mentioned in our board, this is a budget coming from the schools. These schools are requesting for this amount of personnel to make sure that their schools are functioning properly. And then, it gets vetted by the superintendent and the folks down at central office, what kind of resources we can back out from that side. And then, it comes to the superintendent for his proposal to the board. And then, of course, then the board starts asking the tough questions like, okay, so what is our plan? What are we going to do for the next year or two? And so what has happened in the past is we've had a lot of, when I say, empty promises when it came to the funding, because they can appropriate all that money into their blue in the face. But if the cash doesn't come, then, we cannot do what we need to do to fix the challenges that we're faced with the facilities. And so a lot of our facilities are aging. A lot of them are kind of old. And so we need to start looking at for the future. And so with Simon Sanchez is going to be coming online soon when we turn the shovel. 90% of the A&E would be done should be done already by January. And then they're going to start talking about, the financing for that portion of it and putting it out to bid. So yeah, the facilities, because of the federal monies that we've been receiving, we've allotted some of that stuff. We've got approval for certain things to be fixed at the department, and it's not moving as fast as Ms. Gutierrez and I would like it to move, but we're competing with other things that's here in Guam with construction. A lot of folks are tied up with other military projects, perhaps, and stuff like that. So. We got to go through the procurement process, and that's in itself is a lot of timing that goes into that.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of the finances over at GDOE, I remember there was a board resolution regarding a GDOE shortfall with its budget, and there was also that oversight hearing with Senator Nelson, right? Where are you guys, or where is Mr. Fernandez in coming up with a plan to address that shortfall?
It all started, Bree, you remember, it's called the tax the cuts, right? That was the initial one. That was a major impact on the way we conducted ourselves. And from then on, the budget just kept on dropping down, And so when the budget comes back from the legislative body, what they usually do is they give us like a lump sum appropriation. They say, here, this is the amount of money we're giving you, guys figure it out. And so then we come up with our spending priorities. And of course, right off the top, you're looking at taking out about maybe 80 to 90% of that in personnel costs. And you're left with the remaining amount to handle operation costs. And that's like air conditioning, meals or reimbursement or vendor payments, facility maintenance when it comes to yard services. And so those are the challenges that we're faced with. So when we sent in that resolution, it was basically for supplemental budget requests to help cover the shortfall. So obviously, when we don't get that money and they don't support us in that regard, it basically puts us into what they call deficit spending. And of course, this is all privy on the fact that we're on a fiscal year cycle, and what happens there is we towards the end of fiscal year, we won't know if if we're get the full allotments. And then what happens is at the end of the year, we're severely shorted. Then of course the vendors, the folks that do business with DOE. So that's where we become creative, where we're able to back some of that stuff out right now with the federal monies. And so the legislature usually calls us up and say, hey, what are you guys doing with your federal monies? What are you doing with federal monies? The challenge there is Uncle Sam has to agree to what we're asking them to do for us to back out of the local appropriations, and that's called supplanting. If we supplant, then they can take the money back. I can tell you this much, that we've worked hard to get ourselves off of this high risk status, this high grantee status, which basically means a third party fiduciary is watching us how we spend the federal money. And so what we've done over the time is to incrementally take us off, and then coming in, I think the latter part of April, early May, there's going to be a visit from Washington, D.C. The folks from USAID are going to come out on the ground, and they are going to then give us a thumbs up if we're good to go, and release the oversight with the third party. And if that happens, then we got about 2.2 million. When I first came on board, we were sitting at about $5 million worth of payments that we were giving out to this third party. We significantly reduced that, and we basically said, hey, we're ready to take over the responsibilities of managing the federal 7 years of clean audits, no question costs. And why is it that all the other jurisdictions that do that are able to not be on high risk status? So we made the case, but obviously things with the pandemic, some folks in Washington, D.C. are teleworking and all that wonderful stuff there. So, when they shut down, they pretty much kind of left us to kind of just virtual monitoring. So we're hoping to back out of that. So in a nutshell, Bree, we've been able to get the support of USAID to back some of that stuff out, but we're still short on those local appropriations. And that's because the exposure to some of these special funds that were created, like I'll give you an example, the Territorial Education Facilities Fund, that's called TEF, and that's tied to property taxes. So there's only twice a year where we collect that. And so if the projected amount of money that they intend to collect does not come to that amount, then we get shorted from that end. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of you can appropriate all you can, but if there's no cash behind it to pay out, yeah, then you start saying, okay, something's got to give. So we asked to, reduce our exposure to those volatile funds, The other one too that's up is the limited gaming fund. And that's where we collect money from those gaming machines and some other stuff that goes in. Obviously, those things are no longer going to be viable for us. And so it's, I think the courts shot down and clearly defined what those machines are and all the other stuff that comes with gaming. I think even cockfighting was tied into that at one point in time. Mm-hmm. So you take those out of the equation and we get exposure to that and they say, hey, we're going to appropriate $500,000 to that for these types of things for sports facilities. We don't get that money, you know what I mean? So that then the sports start falling to the wayside. So that's the challenge we're faced with. It's we get the appropriations, but then we don't get the full cash allotments.
Right. So the last, I understand it was a $45 million shortfall on the local side. So is it still $45 million?
No, we were able to go back to our federal partners and we were able to shave off and then some cross-leveling and stuff that the superintendent was able to do, maximize resources. And we brought it down to, I think, closer to $9 million where we're projecting our shortfall.
Mr. G, I know that you had made some comments in the last board meeting, very frustrated comments, and talking about raises for teachers, and you guys could do this, and you could do that, and you could, dot your I's, cross your T's, and you could send it over the legislature, wrap it with a nice bow, because it's an election year, and we always know the children are their priority in the election year on all the campaign commercials. Not so much when it comes time to put the money where their mouth is, but you were so frustrated because you said we send it over, we tell them exactly what we need, and we're not asking for anything extra. And then they go get their legislative machete and they cut that budget, right?
Yeah.
Chris, that's true, and Bree and Jason. And I've been doing my my own research. My background is HR, so I know how it is. And I am 100% behind the teacher's salary. I talked to several senators before this last election, and nothing happened. So for me, now that they have that, it says educators. But what about all the employees that are in the Department of Education? There are positions there that are unique to DOE that we need to provide our customers, and our customers are the students. Okay, so I feel that in order to, so that all our employees that are holding the low position, like school aides, their position should be reviewed for salary adjustment. They get people say, well, they're already getting a lot. They get this increase because of salary increment that's required by law, that they get their annual increment or after 4 years. So for Guam, I communicated with the National State Board of Education, which the Guam Education Board is a member. And this is what I found on my research. It goes to be, you need to be an HR person to understand that only 10 states has the highest salary as far as teachers, and then the lowest state that has the low salary for teachers is Mississippi. But it's still with Mississippi's starting salary for teachers, that's equivalent to our teacher here that are on the ED7, meaning they have been reclassification, everything. And some of them for a teacher, our lowest is a teacher because we have the teacher 1 B, C. Those are like those that are still lacking their certification, Chamorro teachers. But a teacher 2 that has a full certification, for them to get the salary that Mississippi being the lowest, they would have to be a step 9. That means they'll be in the system for like 9 years or work on their reclassification so that they can move up. So yes, we're very low. We're low in as far as our teachers here, and I am one. And Mr. Mendola knows that I'm not quiet when it comes to how our employees are treated at the Department of Education, because it takes someone to go in there at the school and see what these employees have to go through, regardless whether they're school aides or they're clerks or whatever. They are all out there. They don't just sit at their desk and do their work from 8 to 5 or whatever. They're all over. They're in the cafeteria. They're out there helping. So it's a lot of work. You cannot compare a clerk at any government agency versus a clerk or computer operator at DOE, because it's a nonstop. You know, some of these employees, I feel sorry for them. So, you know, so that we do not, it will be a morale problem for our employees that are not educators, are not teachers, because then they will still continue to receive the same salary and no study. So we're gonna do this study. Let's just cover all the employees at DOE, because they, you know, for school aides, they just don't supervise kids, and it's hard to supervising these kids. They come from different home discipline, yeah. And they have to be careful how they talk to them, not even how they touch them. So why not look at every position in DOE, because they are the backbones of the school. So I'm 100% behind that educator's review or salary study, but I want all employees, even principal, assistant principal, those employees under the special education who are dealing with our students with special need. So for me, it's not fair. So the budget that we presented came from the school of what they need. It's a budget that stakeholders put together, not the board. We don't cut anything. We question, is there enough personnel for that school? Is it everything else? So for the elected official, they gotta understand and stop telling us that DOE is getting so much money, or because it's not.
Are you talking
It's
about
an
your
agency that we have a special customers, and that's the students.
Which elected official is saying you guys have too much money? Was that your oversight chair? I remember that, yeah.
I'm not gonna say names, but
okay.
you know,
I will. Your oversight chair, in case anyone paying attention is wondering, because it's the same thing with GDOE. Every time we get them on, they're never happy. I mean, and that's no offense. You shouldn't be, right? Because I don't even think adequate is good enough. But their oversight chair is Senator Talina Nelson. And I don't know. I mean, just observationally, I don't really see a lot of interaction with, and I don't know. I don't want to make it awkward for you guys. But I do know she was just absent. So I don't know what the situation, the relationship is with you and your oversight chair. But I know traditionally you want your oversight chair to be going to bat for you, not, using the bat on you.
You know, Chris, being on the board too long, I've seen it. Every year, they don't give what DOE is requesting, okay? They don't. We're good only to be called for oversight, round table, and where did you spend this? No, stop with that, because education is top priority. And the employees of DOE, they're doing everything. They're not neglecting their responsibility to educate our kids, but if we don't give them the resources, how could we? Okay, how could we? So for the public, please, every teacher, every support staff, every principal, every assistant principal, even central office, they're doing their best. Our kids are not being neglected. We produce a lot of intelligent students. So, but we need the resources. We cannot continue to depend on the federal money funding. We have teachers that, now that we have this American Rescue Plan, supplies were bought and everything. So teachers now don't have to spend their money on buying the supplies unless, of course, they have the brand name supplies. But we're doing everything. So I'm already tired of this. EDOE, you got some money. So EDOE, you know what? Under the Organic Act, health, safety, and education. The 14 points, the budget is based on the 14 points. If they don't want us to base our budget on the 14 points, then they should delete that. We see that, but I bet you nobody there have the guts down to repeal the 14 points because they're afraid to be called out. The 14 points is the one that we have to follow and base the budget that we're requesting.
Chairman, could you please?
In the states, with my meeting with NASDAQ, all over the states, their teachers are resigning. Mm-hmm. Teachers are leaving because they're burnt out because of this pandemic. For our teachers here, I want to commend the teachers that are still there, regardless of how they feel about their salary, but they're still because they care for our kids. And if we're gonna say our kids are being neglected, our kids are not being educated, that's an insult to our good teachers, that have worked hard, put in so much time and years in the education. And I want to salute them. I give them the highest respect because they're teachers. Without our teachers, our kids won't learn. But we are providing everything, so we also need to provide the resources for them so that they don't have to keep spending their money. But I grew up in a Catholic school. But all my kids, my grandkids, are all product of public school. Yeah, they didn't make the top 10 or whatever, except one, but I am satisfied because they're very successful. And we have students that are Gate Millennium scholars, Fulbright scholars coming out from DOE. So when we have to compare our students and those in the States being on the NASB, I hear my counterparts. They're struggling too. They're struggling with education in their district. So I don't want people to continue saying that our kids are behind. No, because if you don't, I get to talk to the 50 state board members and we share and said, Maria, we're not, you guys are better than Guam. Than us. You guys are better because for us, it's hard. Because they have kids and they cannot, as DOE, we cannot pick the cream of the crop students. Every child that comes into that door of a school to register, be accepted, regardless of where they came from. So for me, I challenge the elected official that give us that funding that was submitted by the schools, not by the board. All we did is we adopt by the schools so that they can continue the operation of their school. And I invite any community people out there, go to the school and see for yourself. See for yourself. I have been, just this week I didn't go, but I'm going to go tomorrow and the next day. When I see that, I see those employees, the clerks will come out and go to the cafeteria and help supervise. The school aides, that's why I want a study strictly all DOE.
Yeah. The chairman
and continue. And I don't want this thing that, when the study finishes, should be finished by September 2022. If we go to the governor for approval, it should be implemented by 2023. Submitted to the legislature. On the bottom it says submitted to the legislature for approval, or it could be disapproval or amendment. I don't want those false promises that if the study says give the teachers 20% above the salary now, that they say, 2 months, go down to 10%.
Mrs.
I don't want that.
Mrs. G, I get what you're saying. You're basically saying that we can't just give the teachers a raise because everyone at GDOE is underpaid when you compare them to their counterparts in the States, whether it's one-to-one aides or substitutes or whatever. So that's kind of muddying the water for me. Maybe, Mr. Chair, if you could tell us exactly what is on the table. Are we getting raises, or is there just a study? Who, how much, when, all that stuff?
All right. So thanks, Chris. I'll try not to be long-winded on this one, but you know what started this, Chris and Bree, was there's a legislation that was written, and basically it was an educator peace study. And so in it, it basically authorized the Department of Education. They allotted about $100,000 from the budget that was really short to begin with, right, to conduct this study. And so, to conduct this study, when you're looking at educator pay raise, what does this fall under? There are certain classifications, like Ms. G alluded to, regarding educator pay. That'd be administrators, certain professionals within the school that fall under what they call educator, right? That educator classification. And so we're supposed to conduct this fiscal year, and we're supposed to provide that report to the legislative body, I think by September. And then in part, it'll take place, if they approve it, it will take place, the increment or the raise in 2023, right after, of course, as Ms. G would like to point out, after election, that, and so it's basically gonna look at, just that specific portion. So Ms. G is pointing out that there are other support staff that help with the education in the classroom, and all those supports are necessary. And so you create a huge gap in, of course, salaries between, rank and file employees. Actually, there's going to be, of course, morale issues and folks just looking for other opportunities. But at the same time, too, working at our schools is just not, not anybody can just walk into school and say, I'm going to be this, or you know what I mean? There's certain certifications that the folks have to qualify to receive that pay. So what we did on this budget, because the pay hasn't been done, we looked at what was done in for the other agencies that just recently got their increments, right? And so I know the nurses got, I think, 15%, and then the police, law enforcement got 18%. So what we did on this budget is we, just for the educator pay, we gave the low end, which is 5%, all the way up to 22. And we basically looked at the current staffing pattern that we have, warm bodies, and we based it on that percentage. And so you're looking at, the high end of 22%, and of course the low end of 5%. But through Ms. Gutierrez and Mr. Ada on the board, asking us to consider also what other staff within the department, what that would look like. And so we also did included that percentage. We included a second section of that of support staff within the schools. And so just basically on the educator pay, we're looking at about roughly additional $15 million to our current personnel costs. And that's at like 15%. But the challenge there is, Chris and Bree, is it sustainable? You know what I mean? And so, of course, there's a lot of factors that come into it. The Department of Education, aside from, being a public entity that's, guaranteed by the Organic Act and providing education, this legislative body has also created what they call the charter schools. So that's additional resources that, is channeled towards the charter school area. But thank God that it's no longer part of our budget, because in the past, they used to lump it all together and say, hey, DOE, you're responsible for giving them the resources and managing charter schools, which, we said that's not really, that's a creation of legislative body. And so where we're at right now is we submitted our total warm body count in our budget proposal. And what we did was we also requested for certain positions, new positions that we need to operate the schools as people retire, as people leave for new jobs. We need to make sure that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot and get rid of these vacant positions. We need to make sure that, we continue to hire teachers. When these graduates come out from DOE, we don't want them to wait for, the next cycle because we don't have the resources. You want to hire them as quickly as possible and bring them into the classrooms. And so what is that competitive edge that we're trying to put ourselves in? When folks say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna resign, I'm gonna go for greener pastures. And then the other thing too that's playing a major factor in a lot of decisions is this COVID related situation. when it comes to, people's mental health and people just saying, this is too much. We've been at this for quite some time. We're going to take a break, or we're going to move on to other jurisdictions to go and get or go into another career field. So in essence, what we've done in this budget is we gave the legislature an idea of a snapshot of what the potential dollar figure could be should we go 15% across the board, or 22%, or 18%. We gave them all those breakdowns with the current warrant bodies within the Department of Education. And so you can do a study, and then you're going to look at the what they call aspirant communities that are similar to Guam, of course. Cost of living, taking that all into consideration. With the cost of living, here, folks, that home rentals right now are significantly high, and it's really tailored towards the military housing allowances that are out there. Now you're seeing a 3-bedroom house go for $2,200 a month, or even $2,500 a month, where back in the day it was running about maybe $1,200, And so, all these things that you take into consideration, the economy, cost of living, you try to figure out how to make sure that, when we do these increments or these wage studies, that, it's going to be sustainable over a period of time, because, if the cost of living goes up, it's, of course, and people's salaries stay the same, it's going to be very tough for them to continue to live the way some folks live in our communities.
When's the last time?
Those are the challenges we face with Bree. But this educator pay study, it's coming at the heels of course, the law enforcement and the nurses' pay. And so when it comes to the educators, that's going to be the hot topic of discussion, and I assume it's going to be a hot topic of discussion this election season, and everybody's going to want to jump on it. I just want to make sure that our community understands when the dust settles and the next year comes around and we're not collecting the taxes from our main economic engine, the tourism, that we can be facing some really tough days ahead of us, when it comes to ensuring that we meet our mandates of educating our kids in the classrooms.
When was the last time educators got a pay raise?
Chris, I just wanted to mention also that the study that I was given by NASB is that for all the 50 states for 2021. So it's just recent. So some states are adding in the cost of living, some states are not. Some of them, in fact, have decreased their teacher's salary. The top state with highest teacher salary is New York, and starting is $85,000. For this is what my position. And I know people are saying, well, I'm outdated. I don't know. Well, I'm sorry, because I have been behind this. I was one of the first case study group in 1991 when we did this. And in that law, it says that positions should be reviewed every 3 years and be given a 3%. And that didn't happen. Yes, I left the government one, come back later on. But I want also here that when we look at the teacher's salary, the educator's salary, we look at the experience, the education. The bachelor shouldn't be higher than the master, or shouldn't even be like one step difference, because that's not fair. The cost of living on Guam, yes, those are the factors that are building when determining the salary, and that is important. But I'll tell you, some states are removing that now because of teachers resigning because of the pandemic. They're offering them bonus on top of another bonus. Can we afford that here? That's up to our elected official, so that we can keep our employees, our teachers. Teachers are doing everything. So I'm not outdated on what I'm presenting, because this is just 2021, and I was with the NASB State Board just this morning, and because I want the comparison to present to the whoever is handling this educator study group, to look at that, and let's look at that, because here's Mississippi. Right now, Mississippi is only 45,000 starting for a teacher there. They didn't give the same percentage for the cost of living because they believe in the where like New York is expensive. California came in second because of the cost of living. Hawaii is not in the top 10 of the top 10 states that has the high salary. So we have that's why the review is important. When we did the HES study in 1991 to 93, we look at all factors. We gave the employees a random position description to fill out what they're doing, and from that, the HEY group, which consists of employees from Civil Service Commission and other personnel division in the government of Guam, and that's how we did it. I was not involved in the 2013 to 14 on the CWA, but that's where a lot of the disparity, especially on the educator's salary, that came about. So for this time, I want to make sure that they do it properly. Look at the education, the experience and the education of this teacher. Some of them have gone and got their doctorate, and they're still teaching. So we need to look at that versus those that are just with bachelors. And I'm not putting anybody down, but we need to look at that. Need to look at that. That's the cost of
when
living.
When is the last time educators got it?
For me, that is what it is.
Okay,
but
everybody.
my information are now outdated.
Thank you, Mr. G.
Are not outdated. It's 2021.
Stand by, everybody. We're going to just jump over, and then I know that Bree has a question here about the last time educators were given a raise. And so on the Bree side, we're KUAM FM, Agatni Guam, KUAM TV. Fix yourself, guys. Here we come. Another episode of The Link. Good morning. Guam. Good morning, KUAM TV. Welcome to The Link. We're brought to you by Pacific Points, Cabo Enterprises, ITN, and Jack in the Box. It is Tuesday, the 1st of the month, February 1st, 2022. Coming up, our 8 o'clock news brought to you by Pacific Points and Attorney General Levin Camacho also on the way. Right now, though, in progress with Board of Education Chair Mark Mendiola and member Mrs. Maria Gutierrez. Sabrina was just asking a question. Bree, good morning.
Yeah, I wanted to know when was the last time educators got a pay raise?
Sorry, coming in very broken up. Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, when is the last time educators got a pay raise?
Oh, Ms. G, you remember that? You recall that? What was the last increment or salary adjustment that educators had? Was that during the CWA, right?
Yeah, the CWA. But remember that there was a lot of disgruntled employees when that CWA was implemented, and they were told file an appeal. But I don't know what happened with that appeal. But that is where we have a lot of disgruntled employees. We have a system principal who said that the teacher, at the school where he's at, this teacher is earning more, 5 times more than him. But because if the CWA, that's the problem. It's beyond our control at the board, because we have at the Department of Education, because we have to follow the CWA. That is,
and so
people
right.
That's,
I think Ms. G, it was right before I've been on the board almost 5 years. So
let's go 2014, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So before I came on the board, it was completed. But yeah, it was a compression issue, Bree, because the ones that have been longer in the system, basically some of them got like a 25 cent raise versus someone who just came in and got, a couple $100 raise, And so that was the challenge. And I think that's the reason why this educator pay, salary increment or whatever you call it, we have to look at it and do that study. But Ms. G is absolutely right. I mean, all these factors come into play. This is a time and just globally, the professions that are hard to fill. Now you got nurses now that are also, some of them are taking time off, resigning and leaving. I know a couple of friends in the mainland that are nurses are saying, I want to become a traveling nurse so I don't have to, go and see the world at the same time. And then we have educators that saying, I'm taking a semester off, I'm taking a year off, and then I'll I'll see if I want to come back, So mental health too is a big key to a lot of the stuff and the challenges we're faced with. But when you're talking about creating a salary that's going to be comparable and comfortable for people to live on the islands, and unfortunately, some of our folks live paycheck to paycheck, and that's because of the cost of living. It's very high. It's hard to get creative when it comes to your financial resources when you're having to make ends meet. I know some folks, their water bills going up, their power bills going up, and yet even gas to go to the schools is going up, and so you got to take all these things into consideration. So to make it short, the Board of Ed is going to look at this. We're going to conduct this study as soon as possible. I know the superintendent is going to lead that effort. And I do know Ms. Gutierrez asked that I appoint her to, if this committee is assembled. And I want to get this done as soon as possible so that we put it before the plates of our legislative body when we're discussing this upcoming budget. So usually in the month of June is when we get called before the legislature to quote unquote defend our budget. I don't really call it defend our budget. I think we justify our budget. We justify why we're asking that amount, and we really need our folks to look at it and the big picture stuff. And the big scheme of things is, what are we trying to do here as a community? And if everybody says education is important, then we need to show that by putting the resources behind it. And if you're not comfortable and you say you don't trust the way the department is managing it, I have this to say to these folks that, we've had clean audits, we've had external agencies. We have the federal government overlooking us at this point, and we're doing a pretty good job, all things considered, regarding the resources that we get from the legislative body. And we cannot keep depending on the federal government to bail us out, This is the Guam Department of Education. And, there's this thing called maintenance of effort. And it's basically your average of 3 years of federal local appropriations to guarantee that the federal government that our local government also has some skin in the game when it comes to investing in its own education system. And one thing unique about Guam is we're both the state and the local agencies, and that's the reason why John also has oversight over federal dollars that go to other school entities, whether it be through private schools or even to charter schools, and also to GCC, any program that's tied into some of the federal side of things. But I can reassure our community that we're looking at this under the lens that we want things to be sustainable. And obviously we cannot raise taxes, and that's the other way. When we raise taxes again, it creates a lot of challenges for our people. One thing about a lot of jurisdictions in the mainland, the way they fund their education system is tied to property taxes. And I know that our property taxes here in Guam are not exorbitantly high, but that's how they justify to their community that they're investing that money back into some sort of education system. But if I may, just really quickly, one thing that I want to share that the board has been undertaking, it's the strategic plan. And the strategic plan is basically a 5-year plan that looks at the overall picture of the department and what the Department of Education should look like in 5 years from now. So our ultimate goal is really to raise the test scores of our kids. And one of the challenges we have right now is, of course, with the shutdown and a lot of things that have been delayed. So the board took action at this last meeting in line with the assessments. We authorized the superintendent, or actually requested the superintendent to conduct a end of school year assessment to give us a baseline of where students are grade level. And so what that would do for us is provide interventions or additional support, and highly encourage and recommend those kids that fall into that category to take summer classes, to take after school programs, or to take additional supports within the schools. And like Ms. G said, our teachers and our staff, they're the backbone of our education system here on the island. So we need to support them in that regard. And some of our folks are burnt out. It's one of the reasons why we requested that there's a waiver for this 180-day requirement And I just got to say this to the community really quickly, that this 180-day requirement, of course, is by law, but really we've conducted, even if the schools where we had the cohort model, and we also had the take home, and then of course face-to-face. But based on that, our educators came in, they've taught all through that time. And really it's just trying to bring the kids and to catch them up to their level that they need to be. So we can't predict the future in terms of what this pandemic's going to bring. And if the schools, if the pandemic or the emergency, there's another strain that causes us to shut down schools, to ensure the safety of our kids, it could prolong, those days. And that's one of the reasons why we requested that waiver, and the legislature has done that in the past, but we basically want to give the opportunity for the department to kind of also decompress itself in terms of human resources. Right now with this pandemic that's going on in the schools, we have some positive rates. We're deploying people from central office to fill the gaps. I do know that they're going out there and they're acting as substitute teachers. Some of them are actually down there doing home monitoring. And then, of course, some of them are tied to a federal program. So that's, we're working as a team. But eventually, push comes to shove and the school determines that they can no longer operate at a safe level with human resources, then they'll make that request to the superintendent. But I do know we're channeling the resources to address that so that we continue the face-to-face mode of learning and provide the necessary supports in terms of ensuring that our students and our faculty and our staff remain safe by wearing their masks, washing their hands, social distancing, having the schools sanitized, and doing all these things that we said we're going to do to keep our kids. I drop my kids to school every morning, and I'm greeted at the gate. They won't let me come in the gate without my mask on with my kids in the car. My kids get down, they hand sanitize, they take their temperatures, ask them if they're feeling any symptoms. And if the kids say no, then they're on their way to getting an education for the day. So that's pretty much a long-winded answer to that question. But yes, we got a lot of things on our plate.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
We're going to tie it all together with a strategic plan, and we're going to be able to build upon that.
Chris and Rick, just before Mr. Mendola, we go off. If anyone there that is not here on Guam, look for the Government of Guam Competitive Wage Act of 2014, and that's Public Law 32-68. It's here. This is where all the salary schedules for teachers and all government Guam employees. So please don't say that I don't know what I'm talking about, because I do. And yes, Mr. Glenn, it's right. They took it back. So for the audience that are listening, research the CWA of 2014, because this is when the study, the salary that the teachers got, and it wasn't, I don't know what kind of study. But for me, if I'm going to be in this committee, I'm going to make sure I include teachers. Mm-hmm. I want the teachers to be in that committee so we can hear from them. But I want also all DOE employees to be taken care of on this study. So that's all I have to say. Regardless of why, that I don't know what I'm saying. Yes, I do know what I'm saying.
Just for clarification, the 2014 Competitive Wage Act study that included the teachers, they did or did not get raises as a result of that study.
Sorry, Bria, man, you're really breaking up. I can't really hear you.
She said as a result of the Competitive Wage Act 2014 study, did the teachers get the raise or not? Or did they get it and then not get it?
Man, sorry, I'm really, both of you coming in very muffled.
In 2014, when that Competitive Wage Act study was completed via Public Law 3268, did the teachers get the raises at that time or not?
I believe it was across the board. Competitive Wage Act, Ms. G, was across the board.
Yes, it's across the board, and that's why there's a lot of employees were not satisfied, were not happy with the where they were slotted.
Yeah.
But so that time DOA said, If you're not satisfied or happy, file an appeal. And I know there's a lot of employees that file an appeal. What happened to their appeal? I don't know, because we're that is handled by Department of Administration, not the Department of Education, not the board.
Yeah.
So that's a question that should be posed to Department of Administration: is what happened to the appeals? Because I know that it's government. A lot of government employees were not satisfied, specifically the way they were slotted, and that's why we have this assistant principal that was really making a complaint about it. When as far as Civil Service Commission said that's because of the CWA, that's through a Department of Administration. So it's not the board. It's not the board. It's not the Department of Education. We have to follow what the CWA.
Thank you, Mrs. G. Thank you, Mark.
Wait, just real quickly,
Oh,
did
sorry.
you guys get the waiver for the 180-day instructional time? And what about the waiver for the service learning requirements?
Yeah, for both, we requested that the superintendent submit a request to the legislature on the service learning requirement, and then also on the 180-day. And the reason why we did that was kind of like a proactive step, Chris and Bree, because like I said, we don't know what's gonna happen in the next week or 2 or 3 or 4, and if schools, start to go offline because of higher numbers or another strain comes through, then of course, we wanted to be able to do that. But like I said, what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out where, not figure out, but determine the level in which our students are operating and towards the end of the school year, so that if there's additional supports that's needed for these folks, that we identify them, and then we send a note home to the parents saying, hey, look, we got a summer school program that can help your child in reading or mathematics or whatever that weakness may be. And there's some kids that would be maybe up to level, with their studies, and they may be able to function at the next grade level without too much stress. And so what we're doing is we're basically coming up with a creative way. We've engaged with our teachers, we've engaged with our staff, we've engaged our people in the front lines, and to extend another 24 days, that's another month basically for the Department of Education. That will go all the way into June. And then what is that going to mean in terms of our resources as well? We're going to basically have to fund, that, and then that's assuming that, educators that met their 180-day requirement would want to come back and continue on with the school year. Like I mentioned, even though that the kids were on online or on cohorts, the teachers were still showing up every day to work. And so that's the dilemma, the challenge we're faced with when you look at these modes of learning. So we really just need to get over this hurdle. I hope that we get over this pandemic sooner than later, so that we can go back to operating and people are comfortable about their kids attending face-to-face 100%, and that's where our line of conducting our work has always been face-to-face. And this pandemic has really, one thing it taught us is how to be flexible when it comes to, administering, educational resources, and also administering educational guidance to our kids.
When does John get back? I
I
understand
believe he's in the WAS. I believe it's Friday. Friday he'll be back on island. Yeah.
And acting
And one
super.
thing about DOE, we're actually one of the first school districts to be fully accredited by WASC. And so that's a major feat in itself. And that's to the credit of all the schools, because when they do a self-study, they engage everything when it comes to the curriculum, the academics, the student support services that are at the school level, and to have all schools from high school, elementary, all the way up to high school. Most of the time is just primarily the high schools that get accredited, because when students graduate from high school, they have to come from an accredited institution to get into some U.S. academic institutions, right?
Right.
And so it just shows a level of standard in which education is administered at the department. I wish that I just want to thank. It's a lot of work, guys, when it goes into a self-study, and it takes a lot of time and resources and teachers that are really dedicated and committed to ensuring that. And so, the benefits of having an accredited school is you're able to say to the community that there's quality education that's occurring, and we're doing our best to ensure that the kids get the best as we possibly can provide for them.
I wanted to just ask real quick before we let you guys go. Sorry, I know we're going long here, but comments on school violence, the fights, and also break-ins.
Yeah. So when it comes to vandalism, it's a major setback for us because of course those academic resources are computers and new technology that's being provided. That's for the community. That's for the schools, and so they're really hurting themselves, when they do that. And so, I do know that there's neighborhood watch programs, and we just ask the community to continue to be vigilant about, what's going on in the neighborhood. I'm a part of a neighborhood watch program, and man, folks are very brave. Chris, I just saw a video of someone jumping over my neighbor's gate to go and steal bananas off a tree. You know what I mean? And this is daylight, and there's cameras, and it doesn't deter them from doing stuff like that. I'm like, wow, and so. When it comes to our schools, of course, we're gated, we're secured, but folks still find a way to go around the system, I guess, so to speak, and then, they do some damage that it becomes a cost back to the school system. And on the violence, one of the things I tell this to folks, we don't teach violence in the schools. We don't teach our kids how to do that type of, but obviously, there's some conflict resolution that needs to occur between these folks before it escalates to that point. But, as a parent, I talk to my kids about, proper behavior in schools, and that if a situation comes up and they basically got to be able to, separate themselves from that type of behavior and be able to, function properly in the school system and respect. It really just boils down to respect. Respect for yourself and respect for the other people around you. And I do know that, with technology and people always trying to record, that's the time when we're able to see what's really going on. These kids are setting up these stage fighting. If you see some of these videos, they'll know where the school aides are, and then they'll start throwing punches, haymakers, and then after they're done for, whatever, how long it is, they shake hands and walk away like nothing occurred. But it's very dangerous when these people do that. And so, there are mechanisms in place for the school to take a swift administrative action. And I do know that the superintendent said if this continues, or actually he already implemented it, that they will have the disciplinary committees assembled, and he would expel these students from the school so that to protect the other students from this type of violence. So it's a serious thing, and our community just needs to surround itself and make sure that our kids, do this. When things happen outside the gate and it festers over into the schools, it becomes a DOE problem, Kids have an argument at the bus stop, and the next thing you know, they're surrounded with their friends in the school, and, that mom mentality, and then you start taking it out in the schools, and it becomes a school issue. But really, the issue started outside of the gate. So, DOE does its best to try to monitor and to provide those counseling and to provide all that stuff that is necessary for kids to know that that's not the appropriate thing to be doing in schools. But yeah, we have appropriate mechanisms in place to deal with students that decide to go down this path. And I hope and I pray that we don't get the bad message, or you guys are not reporting that another child lost his life or is maimed or injured severely because of some, violence in the schools and stuff that it's just like, why would you do that in that type of environment?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. G.
Thanks, Ms. G.
I mean, we could easily go on another hour.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you guys
Mark's
next week.
Mark's like, no, I gotta go. Mrs. G, thank you. Esther, and Joss.
All right, take care.
Oh, boy.
That was a lot. That
Yeah.
was a lot.
It's a little too much.
Nah, well,
No, yeah.
I'm glad I got to hear updates. Third-party fiduciary
Right.
agent.
Good points there. I mean, 7 years of clean audits.
Yeah.
Right? It's insane.
Hopefully, it can be removed from that high-risk grantee status to save GDOE $2.2 million. Talked about the budget shortfall. Started out at $45 million, managed to shave that down to $9 million, and of course the teacher pay raise issue and the educator pay raise issue. Hopefully, they'll be able to complete this study by September.
Yeah.
When senators, discuss the budget, pass it hopefully by October, the new fiscal year.
I
they'll
feel
get the
bad
pay
for our
raises.
teachers though, because the law enforcement got their raise, the nurses got their raise, and the teachers. When we had John on, he said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get raises." It kind of and how, I guess fast or not fast, maybe just out of the blue, law enforcement. I mean, everybody got that 18%. I know the teachers were thinking, "Oh, it's a done deal. We're probably gonna get our next paycheck," right? Because of how quickly all this stuff evolved. And then to hear maybe September this year, I mean, what does the governor think of that? Because it's an election year, and they sure could use that good news before the primary, if there is one. I'm just saying. It's 8:26. Quick break, and we're coming back. We're going to move things around. We got Attorney General leaving Camacho, and then we'll do news a little bit later. That's coming up right here on the link, brought to you by Pacific Points, Calvo Enterprises, IT&E, and Jack in the Box. Good morning.